going to talk some NFL on the OFN today. I'm doing a lot of college football lately, but we're going to take a break from our college football interviews, even though we do have a Buffalo Bill interview coming up next week, so I'm interested in that, a first-timer. And speaking of first-timers, we have a first-time interview for the Our Lads Football Network, and it's always great to have somebody new, of course, and somebody experienced. Mike, and I should have asked you beforehand, but I'm going to guess your last name is pronounced Tanier.
Correct.
All right.
Excellent.
There you go. Nice. Mike, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. I'm glad we're not talking about college football because, frankly, I don't even know what conference half of these teams are in right now.
Yeah. Wow. I'm not happy about that.
No one is.
No one is. Exactly. It's
Except
just
people making the money. The people making the money are happy. The rest of us are guessing and wondering.
I mean, I know there are a lot of old schoolers. I don't know how you fit in. I am for the playoffs. I don't like the 4 teams. I think it's a ridiculous setup. I think if you're just going to do it, just do it the right way. So I'm kind of glad they're doing that next year. But the conference realignment is just nobody likes it, and it just takes away all the tradition. It's terrible.
Takes away all the traditions, and I'm a big believer in the non-money sports. Those young athletes in field hockey and swimming and things like that shouldn't have to be going across the country.
Yeah.
To compete. They should be in their regions competing so that their youth isn't spent on planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah. Like the wrestling teams or the swimming teams, they have to do this because of the football teams. That's why they're doing it. Yep. So, but yeah, it is what it is. But the NFL doesn't have such problems. They have their own problems. But the good news is that it's kind of off the field. I'm not sensing anything, which is nice. Of course, there's little things here and there could always make it worse than I get. But I mean, if you had to pinpoint one potential headache for the NFL this season, what would it be?
Wow, it's really quiet right now.
Yeah.
The morality of football beat, which I was on full time for all the 2010s, it does seem quieter right now. Dan Snyder being out of the league
helps.
Seems to make it quieter right now. One brouhaha on the horizon, and it's something that should be taken seriously. All the evidence suggests that those padded helmets, what are they called, Guardian helmets, work in practice to lower concussions, work in training camp to lower concussions. They look ridiculous, obviously.
Yeah.
But at what point do we say, well, if it's going to save lives of these players, looking a little goofy, let's figure out a way to put the logo on the helmet. And of course, the NFL will be reluctant to do that, and that will be a question that they have to answer.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if they could figure out a way to make it not so goofy, because there's no way they're going to put a goofy-looking helmet on.
Comp Gen using state-of-the-art AI, the regular helmet on there when we're watching on TV, and they're wearing.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Just let the fans at the stadium deal with it. But for us. Yeah, we're the primary viewers. We're the ones that really help them rake in the cash. So I tell you what, we're going to do on the show today is we are going to get it's an interesting kind of concept we're going to do because we had talked about doing an underrated, overrated list and then decided, you know what, probably a good idea to use that list with the win totals. Everybody likes, not everyone, but a great deal of people like to gamble, especially in the NFL. So win totals, that's something that has really grown over the years. And so I have your list, your top 5 for both, which you would take unders or overs as far as the win total. So we're going to get that in just a couple of seconds. I do want to ask you a little bit more, though, about the new website, themessenger.com. So you have to be really excited about that. Anything that's like a startup, especially if it has really good backing, should be pretty exciting.
Yes, it's a startup. It's got really good backing, and it's not just a football or just a fantasy or gambling. It is a full, free news outlet. So we cover
free helps.
News, business, politics, sports, entertainment. Maybe there's comics, crosswords. I'm not even sure. But all of that. So it is a big, huge thing, and it's going to be free. This is not going to be subscription based. So you can check it right now at themessenger.com, and you can see everything that's on there. Sports officially launches August 28th. I've been putting some stuff out there, but really right now you go there and you're going to see a lot of politics and a lot of news, but that's good. You need another source for your politics and news right now. There's not enough of them.
Yeah, well,
there's not enough of them that aren't behind a firewall or completely slanted one way or the other.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. I think we're all kind of, I mean, at least as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, having that, I think, look, you know what? Maybe that is the wave. Maybe that's the future is, because why not? It's not, you don't see any of it. You don't see a site or a network that you can go to that you go, really? I'm actually getting both sides of the opinion that I actually value, that I can go, oh, maybe this makes me think.
Yeah, and again, it's something like the plan for now is to make it accessible to everyone, so everyone has access there. And I'm in my own little corner, like I mentioned earlier. I'm happy to not be on the morality of sports beat right now, but like that's there, and then we're in our section talking X's and O's, touchdowns, all that good stuff.
Great, terrific. Well, that's coming soon, like you said. What, a couple weeks?
Yep.
26th, 28th. Okay, that's a Monday. So that is only about what? That's about a week or two before the season begins.
Yeah, we're getting it in there quick.
Yeah,
and I'm doing most of the team by team preview stuff. That's going to be me. So I've been when I'm not on here talking to you, I'm like Kermit the Frog. Doing this, getting some team previews done.
Well, that's actually I'm thinking now that I believe kickoff weekend 0 is the 26th.
For college.
I think Notre Dame Navy for college football might be the biggest game of week 0. So that's not bad. They're over in Ireland. So,
cool. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So
I love week 0.
Yeah.
And one thing from because I do NFL only, the NFL got rid of the 4th preseason game, which was always just the Scrubini game, which gives a lot of us a moment to kind of push pause. Obviously, we'll be writing about the cuts and things like that, but we're not like trying to write about these third-string quarterbacks, et cetera, and we can just watch the college games and enjoy it. And it's good for fans, and it's good for us, too.
Yeah, it's makes you realize that probably something they should have done a while back. It's much better this way. And it has, I think, even at least this season for the NFL, we haven't heard so far. Now, we haven't played any games yet, except for one. But still, we hear about a lot of injuries that occur in practice. They still have. We've had a couple. But for the most part, it's pretty quiet. I mean, we've had worse off seasons heading into the first preseason weekend where it's been like 5 or 10 injuries already of players that are out for the year. So they've done a good job there.
Yeah, I mean, the big ones we're watching Joe Burrow to see when that comes back. That's one. Jalen Ramsey was a big one. But you're right. I remember years ago being sent to like talk to, doctors and orthopedists and trainers and things like that in early August because like 15 guys are already hurt, and Schefter would put the tweet out. The following players are already hurt. And go, so hopefully that's a sign of better practices. Now, one of the things I'm hearing is we're going to see starters a little more during these preseason games than we've seen in the last couple of years. I hear we're going to see Mahomes a little bit in the first preseason game. I know that Sean Payton is going to be putting Russell Wilson out there. That might be like a message to Russell Wilson. We're not sure, but like we may see more than we've seen in the last couple of years, where the mentality was keep them in shrink wrap the entire summer.
Well, Denver and Russell Wilson happen to be on one of your lists, so let's get into that. What I'm going to do now is pop up so they can actually they're going to be able to check out. You know what? I should have probably done this already, and I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to make sure that you can see it as well.
Oh, please.
Okay, so there you go.
Yes.
Okay, so you can set your Twitter handle or X handle. I'm not sure what they're doing with that. I don't. Okay.
We'll be here all day
if
we start on that. But
no.
Folks can find me on Twitter, X, and also on Threads at Mike Tanier, Tanier. And folks, you can see it up there. So that's my avatar. That's my anime version of myself.
And here's the messenger. So there you go. See right there you go. Coming soon. Sports.
Coming soon. Coming soon. I wasn't lying.
That's it. So that's the messenger. And what I'm going to do is pop up the RLAD's depth charts.
Nice.
Because that's what we specialize in. And we're going to start with Carolina. because we're going to go with what you consider the 5 most overrated teams. So these are the teams that you would put money on if you were a gambling man to go under the win totals. Carolina, and I'm also going to, just so you know where we're getting this from. So we're getting it here from DraftKings Sportsbook. So right here you get the wins, and you can go all the way down the line. And right here is Carolina at 7.5. So
it's like you're sharing my screen. I got the Arlen's depth chart on one and the DraftKings on the other all the time, and a little bit of pro football.
Oh, really?
In there, and that's pretty much it. I go to bed at night, I wake up, it's all sitting there.
That's awesome. And so here's Carolina at 7.5. Now I'm going to start at 5. So basically, I'm going to work my way up to the team that you feel is the most overrated. Is that correct? Okay. Is that how you put it down?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with number 5, Carolina, 7.5 win total. And you know what? This would be dangerous for me. I'd probably stay away from this because Frank Reich, good coach, rookie quarterback. There are a lot of questions, but it's a talented team. It's a weak division. But why specifically? What are you against Carolina, at least for year one, to have them as a sub 500 team?
I think the one that you pointed out there is it's the weak division. I think we'll go back to that anytime an NFC South team comes up. And that makes me a little anxious. That's why they're the 5th most overrated, not the most overrated, because I can see the 7.5 and I can see getting to 8 wins based on the idea that, you're playing the Buccaneers twice. I know they've got teams like the Texans on the schedule, et cetera. The top end of the roster is very strong. The bottom end of the roster, or the bottom like 2/3 or 3/4, is a lot of guys where it's a projection, or it's like you're looking at this and say, well, if he lives up to his draft potential, if he's as good as like his boosters claim he could be, et cetera, along the way. You look at the offensive line. I know Tyler Moton's a player. I'm a big Ike Ekwonu fan. Not particularly strong in the middle there, not particularly deep. You look at the receiving core. Does Adam Thielen have anything left?
You would hope with a change of scenery, he'll give him a year or two, but that's all he does have left, you would think. So.
And I would say maybe like sort of as the safety valve underneath to help Bryce Young develop, he can be that. But like I have a theory, if the Vikings get rid of you, that means you're done.
All right.
They hold on to the guys forever. DJ Chark, the 4 or 5 games he'll be healthy, that's strong.
Yeah, Mingo, there you go.
I had mixed reviews on Jonathan Mingo coming in. I can't tell if this is going to be a secret like A.J. Brown situation or it's going to be a secret Laquan Treadwell situation with this.
Or Terrace Marshall. He was a second-round pick of the team.
Situation. Yeah. And again, he's a guy, I know Panthers fans are like, oh, man, Marshall, he's going to break out. I've seen flashes. I haven't seen it.
Not yet.
Yeah, you haven't given it to me, and there's no DJ Moore anymore. Even you get down to the defense, when you look on that side, I think we all know J.C. Horn, when healthy, is that guy. Brian Burns is that guy. I know there's some emerging guys like Derek Brown has grown into his role. This is not a deep defense. This is a defense with top-end talent.
And they switched the scheme as well, which is take a little time. But I want to know how they're going to use Jeremy Chin. That's the thing, because they've got to get Jeremy Chin back to the player he was as a rookie, because I don't know, he was probably misused, because I don't understand why. Now, so this happens. Rookie comes up, does great, disappears. You don't hear from him again. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe he's overrated. I don't know. But if they're going to have a really successful season, I think he's got to be a big part of it on defense.
They say you have him as nickel. They have him in some kind of hybrid role. That's the plan coming out of camp. I know he's been banged up a lot too. But yeah, he's somebody healthy and playing the right role. That could be something special. But you're always saying yes and with some of these guys along the way. And I have a hard time stacking all of that up to 8 wins right now. And especially, again, we're talking about a rookie quarterback. This is a developmental year
for
a guy a lot of us like, but isn't necessarily surrounded by a stable supporting cast.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you're right. There's no question. There's the question. Too many of them. And but this is the NFL, and this is why it's so tough from year to year to gauge which 4 or 5 of those teams are going to put it all together. Right. Carolina could be. Maybe they will be. But statistically speaking, the averages aren't with them. So it's a guessing game at this point every year, is which one of these teams will put it all together. Justin Houston believes, I guess, that they maybe could be that team, because he recently signed with them, and and that was a big pickup. They needed somebody on the opposite side of Brian Burns because Haynes, he hasn't done it. He hasn't provided any pass rush. And neither has that other kid. What's his name? Gross Matos from Penn State has not done it.
Right.
So hopefully that'll help their defense out because they need additional pass rushers. And J.C. Horn needs to have a big season that says, I am a shutdown corner.
Right. Well, and he needs to stay healthy. I think that's where that comes from along the way.
Yes.
And Houston, he's in that Adam Thielen category, where it's kind of like, are we playing out the scene? I'm looking at the second team on that depth chart, and there's just a lot of guys who it's like, if you're rebuilding, please rebuild. I don't know if we need Eric Rowe if you're rebuilding, or Camu Griger-Hill for however many years he's been in the league at this point. But that might keep them stable. But I'll tell you something, like we were talking about this, and it's like I say they're overrated. You can create a narrative that says they win that division. Like you could say, well, Young breaks free and Burns has 18 sacks and J.C. Horn is healthy for 18 games, and the Falcons stink and the Saints get whatever. But even if you tried to look at the action on that, it's only plus 400 to win the division. So it's not even like you can take
the not valued.
There's no value. There's no meat on that bone, and that's why I think they're overrated. Not because it's impossible to meet those odds, but because those odds aren't as good as you would like them. Whereas,
all right,
good for you anyway. Good for us.
Next up is my team, and I hold nothing against you here, because this is a high number as far as I'm concerned myself. Even though I believe Vegas has them as the third choice, just barely by the Dolphins being in second in the AFC East. And that's where exactly I think they belong. They belong as the third choice in the AFC East. Of course, we know how tough that is, and we're going to get to this division a little bit later on with one of your other picks. But here are the Jets, and they'll be on Hard Knocks week number 2 next week. Yeah. It is incredible, and as a fan, it's spinning my head. I can imagine what it's doing to the players, the amount of media attention.
Yes,
it's just so much. They must get off to a good start, because if something happens and this media attention and a new quarterback and new system and all of that, and they get off to a slow, the media is going to be on top of them, and it's going to feel like a ton of bricks or even worse. And I don't know if they'll be able to get out of it.
Yeah, and it's not just media attention, but like they need to stay on message all the time. Like there can be no disagreement about the state of the team, about who Aaron Rodgers is, etc. They have to be very much on message. And the Jets' schedule starts out with Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles.
That's all?
There's a 2-4 there. There's a very likely 2-4. And I was a couple of Jets media who are like pro Jets were talking about, this team could start out 3-3 and that's okay. And it probably is okay, but it's interesting.
Oh, that would be huge. If they actually, with that schedule, that would be an accomplishment, not that the media would see it that way.
Right. And also it's like an inoculation, like all of this for a 3-3 start.
Yeah.
For a 3-3 start. Yeah, we beat the Broncos and we beat the Patriots, and we got one of the other wins there.
Yes.
And that's what I would say, like in terms of the number. I don't have the number up for DraftKings, but
9.5.
9.5. Like, okay, they're on that number. I wouldn't actually bet under that. But this is the thing where the house has them at 9.5. So the house has one expectation, and this media blitz about this team has
much
a very
higher.
Different expectation.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the trick, is that like you're saying, is that it's important for them because that noise, the outside noise, because I hear, if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's a disaster. If they don't at least go to the championship game, it's a disaster. It's like, man, look, don't tell me what is a disaster for my team. Okay, as a Jet fan, we haven't been in the playoffs in like 12 years. Mm-hmm. If we get to the playoffs, I don't care what anybody says, we're going to be happy as Jet fans. Now, we would be disappointed if we lose the first play. Of course, every fan is. But if we get to the playoffs, I'm telling everybody, we're going to be happy. So, but that's not going to be good enough. So,
I mean, that's at what cost? And again, I respect fan happiness. At what cost when if you come in next year, it's all already falling apart?
Well, that's different. Because then next year, there's no more happy going to the playoffs. Next year is Super Bowl or bust.
Right.
Because Aaron Rodgers only has a couple years left. That's it.
Right. And of course, Rodgers has a new deal, etc. But you've seen what he did in Green Bay. You saw what Favre did. He could be out there saying, you know what, I'm going to go host The Price is Right. Bye, guys.
You don't know. Yeah. Another unknown. And you don't even know if it would work, even if he wanted to work. At his age, the only thing I could say is, and I'm not saying he's Tom Brady because nobody's Tom Brady,
right?
But Brady did accomplish a heck of a lot at an older stage of his career. So even though Rodgers is 38, 39, the fact is Tom Brady was winning a Super Bowl at 44, 45?
44. Yep.
Yeah.
He was drinking Cal shakes.
And he put up tremendous numbers. So it wasn't just Peyton Manning winning the Super Bowl with the Denver defense. It was Tom Brady was winning the Super Bowl. So, yeah, it can happen. But again, it's going to take a lot. This is not a winning organization. I see where you're coming from, though.
Right. I'm looking at the depth chart right now, and I'm looking at that offensive line. I see Dwayne Brown Pup. I don't know when he'll be back.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back, yeah. But one setback.
Mekhi Becton has already tweaked a little something. So the Bectonometer is doing what it does every year.
You know what it is that it's a typical thing of when an injured player comes back and he's saying he's not feeling right, but the doctors and the players who have been there know it is right. You just have to trust it. And he's having a hard time trusting that he can work on that knee. And that's the next step, because he could end up starting at right tackle, or he could end up being traded for the beginning of the season. Who knows?
Or he could be on the IR.
Or he could be on the IR. Yes.
And of course, your backup is Billy Turner, who's there because Rodgers likes him, not because he's been tearing things up.
No.
And, again, you got Vera Tucker. That's a good ball player. The other guys can play all right.
Yeah.
There's questions here. Okay, there's questions on that offensive line.
Yes.
Strong team overall. Okay.
But the defense is going to have to, once again, at least early on, is going to have to lead the charge.
Yes, the defense is going to have to lead. And again, it's interesting how we're couching this stuff. We just got Aaron Rodgers. We've spent the last 6 months talking about Aaron Rodgers. Hey, but maybe we'll go 3-3 and the defense is leading the charge. It's a weird – you Jets fans are in a weird headspace.
Sure.
You're in the headspace that you could have been in with Derek Carr and have draft picks.
Well, that's true, too, an extra draft pick. Yeah, and that draft pick could have been an offensive tackle.
Yeah, it could have been an offensive tackle, and you could have maybe gotten a receiver that wasn't just the quarterback's buddy from the last stop.
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
Yeah.
All right, next up, the Chicago Bears. Now, this is one I definitely agree with you on.
Mm-hmm.
They're 7.5, and even though, of course, with Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay, not that they had a good year last year, but a little bit down, you would think. Detroit, believe it or not, a little bit up. Minnesota, who the hell knows? But I agree. I think there seems to be – I was a little bit surprised when I saw 7.5. I thought they'd be more like 6.5. I think they're getting a little bit too much credit because there's a lot. This is a rebuilding team still.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have a strange sense of where Justin Fields is as a passer, as a player, et cetera, et cetera. Last season was a bad season. Justin Fields had a bad season. He had bad receivers, bad offensive line. It was a bad season. They've improved things around him, but that doesn't automatically make him like Josh Allen now, automatically coming up through. The thing with this team is more the defense. I look at the offense right in front of me right now. I love DJ Moore. I love Darnell Mooney. Somebody will be Chase Claypool or one of the other guys will be okay in that position. I think they improved the offensive line. I'm a big Darnell Wright fan. He's been up and down in camp. Get down to the defense. Now, they added a little bit recently because they brought in Yannick, pronounce his last name. Ngakoue, who, I think is a little late in his career. They had nothing at pass rush. They had nothing.
Yes. And they didn't even draft anybody.
Right. They didn't draft anybody. They brought in some of these guys, like Rasheem Green was on the bottom of the Texans practice squad. They don't have a lot at cornerback either. Okay, you've got a second-round rookie in there. Eddie Jackson's a great safety. When you're weak at the edge and you're weak at cornerback, teams are just going to roll on you. They're just going to pick you apart. And and there's not a lot of depth there. You'll see a couple of guys. They added some linebackers. There is no depth. You lose one or two guys here on that defense, it kind of falls apart. So they're going to get outscored every week, and that's going to, of course, Justin Fields to not run the read option and do stuff like that, but pass, and that is a complete mystery box right now.
Yeah, they're going to rely on a lot of rookies on defense because Stevenson, he's probably going to start as long as everything goes well.
Yeah, those two rookie defensive tackles are going to be constantly in a rotation. That's like 1 million pounds of guys in there.
Yes.
Which should help a little bit. I have no idea what Noah Sewell brings to the table because he's a guy who I think 3 years ago looked like he was going to be the next big thing, and like he's a really big.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, he's a large guy for the position, and he plays like a large guy for the position. I don't know if you put him in at middle linebacker if teams aren't just going to say, okay, let's see if you can cover Christian McCaffrey, or let's see if you can cover Alexander Madison either, and see if you've got the speed to do it.
Yeah, Edmonds, we'll see how much that helps him as a placeholder.
Yeah,
Sanborn is the interesting one. I thought he was a very good, and you're always going to get about a handful, maybe even a dozen of these undrafted rookies. Now this was last year. But I think he's one to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's still relying an awful lot on a lot of young players, and I think they're better, but they were pretty bad last year. So how much better can they possibly be? Over 7.5 tells me that maybe they're a 500 team. I just don't see that.
No, I don't see it.
All right, next up, we're getting close to your number one team, but next up is Denver. And Russell Wilson and Sean Payton coming back to the NFL. So we'll find out what he can do with Russell Wilson. And anytime the NFL gets good quarterback play, it's a good thing. I'm all for it. Nobody wants to see Russell Wilson's play diminish. That's bad for the league. So hopefully that is good for the league and good for Russell Wilson and the Bronco fans. But it's a 8.5 number. So that's a winning team. Now, the only thing I could say is that normally when you take a look at how they lost their games last year, there were so many infuriatingly close losses that you would think better coach, that alone should help them. Maybe they win a lot of those close games, and now they are a winning team. But the thing is, I don't know. I don't know what we have here until I see Russell Wilson showing that he can be the guy that he once was, because at this point it might be over for him. That's what a lot of people are worried about. But if it's not over, then I could see this team being a dangerous team. The other thing is they're in a heck of a division.
Right. And the two things with Russell Wilson, like, has he lost his arm and legs? I don't think that's the case. Has he become so entrenched in the way he plays that coaching is going to kind of bounce off of his aura and he's not going to change his system? That's a bigger thing. One thing you look at, you don't see the name Tim Patrick there at wide receiver, already injured. You don't see the name KJ Hamler dealing with a health condition, might be out for a while. So it's not the really good wide receiver core that we kind of been waiting to see there. Although you do have Sutton and Judy, who've been kind of, I guess, up and down and hurt a lot through their career. The strength of this team is the secondary. And the secondary is outstanding. I get down there and we're going to see, Surtain, obviously. Yeah. And the safeties in terms of Simmons, and Kareem Jackson's listed second there. I don't know if he's hurt or what the story is. When I see a team that's lost a lot of close games and their strength is their secondary, I ask the question, did opponents, when they had a lead and saw how bad their offense was, never challenge these guys? Okay. Not saying that Surtain and these other guys aren't good, but is it really, the reason that game was so low scoring is the opponent was like, we're going to be able to run the clock out on these guys and do it.
Okay.
So in the front seven, it's not as much strength. Again, you got Randy Gregory, another guy who's going to be, on the injured list a lot. Yeah. Browning's already hurt, et cetera. It's not super talented up front there on the front seven. I think it could be a top 20-ish defense. Maybe it's a top 15 or 20 offense, and then you're facing the Chiefs twice, and you're facing the Chargers. Okay, you get the Raiders in there. There's a very high probability that this goes south rather than turns into this redemption tale that I think they're trying to sell.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'd agree with that. If I had a wager on whether Denver is a winning team or a losing team, I would
Right.
just have to. And I'm not saying by a lot because I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year.
Right.
But I would say I would just miss it. But another team that okay, if Russell Wilson still has it, then that changes everything. But
Yeah.
we don't know.
You know, it'd be a fun. I'd have to look it up. Maybe it's on DraftKings somewhere. An exacta of the AFC West to just go Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders.
Oh,
Just
okay, yeah.
exacta. I'm wondering what you would get on that because it just feels like that's what's going to happen. You probably have to do a little hunting on that.
They do have
And
it. It would be let's see.
it's perfection, or
Yeah, it's could be. Let me see. No, that's that then.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I can do it actually. I believe with the teams.
Okay.
I got to find the team ones because they do have exact. Uh, let's
Right.
see where I
Exact
have it in
finishes.
here.
Exact
Team
finishes. But man, it's a
specials. Let me see. Team specials. No divisional specials.
oh 1, 2 exact order. Exact order.
There you
I'm
go.
pointing to my screen like you can see me point.
That's it.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So we're gonna go to Denver. Oh, oh, do they have it? Or
Man, this is so.
see, they have the
They've got
North,
every single freaking permutation.
AFC South, NFC East. I don't see anything else.
All right. You know what? Probably not compelling viewing for this point. So,
Yeah, they have it for 3 divisions right now. So I don't know. Maybe you got to go searching for more.
Go searching, or they're like, oh, that's how it's going to finish. We're not even going to put action on it. No one's going to take it.
Yeah. What would you do? 1 through 4.
1 through 4. I mean, the thing is, it's got to be around plus 400 for me to even look at it because it is a 1 through 4. You're so many variables, and I don't think they bother offering it. But then, looking at this, maybe they are. And they started around plus 700. I would do that plus 700 in a second.
All right. Let's conclude your under win totals.
Everyone knows what's coming. Everyone knows who's next. There's
With
only one team overrated enough to have topped this list.
And that is the Minnesota Vikings at 8.5. So, yeah, it was interesting that record-wise, they got up to like really good start, and then Green Bay went down, and that opened things up for them. But it was interesting that they get to the playoffs, and they play the Giants, and Vegas like immediately was like, "Well, we're not falling for it." And the line represented that. And then most people actually like, yeah, I can see the Giants winning. And then the Giants won.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was like, yeah, we got it. We knew it. And it happened. So, yeah, 8.5 is the number.
Yeah.
Same as Denver. That means if you think Minnesota is going to be a winning team or not.
And the 8.5 is the public and the House looking at last year's wins, I guess it was 13 wins, and saying, oh, no, we're not falling for this. Take this way down. And they take it all the way down to 8.5. And the House and the public's like, yeah, that seems reasonable. It's not far enough. It is not far enough. I think this is a 6 or 7 win team. I think the Packers are pretty good. I think the Lions are going to be pretty good. And I think this is a pretty bad team. You might see it a little bit better on defense. Let's take a look real quick. Okay, so we have, a starting 3rd-round pick at cornerback. You have the ageless Harrison Smith at safety. Lewis Sine looked good last night in the preseason game, which is good. Maybe pencil him as one of the starters there. But this is a mix of Danielle Hunter, a bunch of old guys who they weren't able to get rid of yet because their contracts have been extended too far, and a lot of sort of question marks along the way. This is a very weak defense, all things considered. You got Jordan Hicks. Okay, maybe this kid Pace that you see, he's been the talk of camp. He gets in there. Not a very strong defense there. Marcus Davenport, if you actually look at his sack totals and his pressure totals at New Orleans, never really became the guy they wanted. A lot of players like that on defense. And on offense, it's most of the same guys, minus Dalvin Cook, minus Adam Thielen. And it's not a very strong offense overall.
Well, a lot is going to depend on, as usual, Kirk Cousins, who's going to have his fantasy regular stats, and his Alexander Madison. Can he pick up the slack because some people believe that he's a really good player that's been behind Dalvin Cook, and now here's his chance to prove it. Problem is, there's nobody behind Madison.
There's nobody behind Madison. The kid Chandler looked really good in the preseason. And Madison, when that story is going on for 4 years, like for 4 years, Alexander Madison, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Like Tony Pollard's the same way in Dallas. 4 years past, he's probably not the guy. And now you bring him out here, you might already have gotten past the time where he had that kind of elite juice. I'll tell you a couple things. One is that Dalvin Cook had the highest stuff rate in the NFL last year, but Dalvin Cook was second or third, which means the stuffs were a product of interior offensive line, which has not changed. The scheme, which I think has a lot of plays where it's like a predictable run. The other thing is that Kirk Cousins, his completion rate, his interception rate, yards per attempt, just about everything, they were like 2 or 3 year lows last year. Like he had the lowest of all of his own personal stats in between 3 and 4 years, some of them going back to Washington last year. It was all obscured by the fact they won 13 games.
Sure.
And I believe he had 8 comebacks, with like Josh Allen fumbling and all this other goofy stuff.
They stole some games, yes.
Right. So like Cousins was playing well. Cousins was not playing particularly well, but they were getting all of these wins. So there's a very good chance Cousins is actually on the decline now. And that he now doesn't have what he needs at running back. There have not been changes on the offensive line. And Justin Jefferson will have to catch 200 passes to pick up the slack.
Well, this is the big deal here is Jordan Addison. Yeah. Because injured last year, so he didn't get an opportunity to kind of relive his Biletnikoff 2021 season. Of course, shipped out west and all that. But he's a very talented kid, and that's the thing. But every rookie wide receiver, it's like every Garrett Wilson, you get a Jalen Reagor.
And there he is.
Who happens to be on their team now.
There he is.
Yeah.
And Addison looked real good last night. I think he can come in and be sort of a capable starter as a rookie.
I think he has to be more than that, for them to be a winning team. Yeah.
Right, and look at the rest of the receiver core. I mean, Jalen Reagor is on it. I think that's all we have to say.
That's right. So he's like on the second string. He's like, hey, if somebody's injured, I'm playing.
Right.
So
Mr. Muff Punt.
That's not good. And that interior of the line, that is definitely the biggest question. So they have to get some improved play there. But the other thing, and we kind of started with it, even Chicago, every team in that division should be better.
Yeah.
So that's going to make life even tougher for Minnesota. Okay, now we're going to talk about. Now these are the teams that you favor. These are the ones that you think are not getting enough respect, and we're going to start with the New Orleans Saints. I was actually surprised by this because they have a 9.5.
Right.
But the division, we all know how bad the division is, or could definitely be. And Allen is now year 2. So we'll see. He's got his quarterback. This is his quarterback, Derek Carr, the old Vegas days. They reunited. And, their quarterback play was just so bad last year that you would think that Derek Carr is just going to be a big lift up. And then Michael Thomas, that to me is probably the biggest need. If they're actually going to exceed the 9.5 wins that you're thinking, Michael Thomas, I think, is going to have to be a big part of that.
And on the one hand, I think Thomas, who's no longer on like this endless contract, might play. But I did check right before we came on the air, and he's hurt right now.
Oh.
So you get your Mekhi Bectons and like whoever else we were taking a shot at. Michael Thomas has found his injury. I want to read off to you the start of the schedule. Now, keep in mind.
Here we go.
The Saints are this very veteran team. You know all these names, and they've been together 2 or 3 years, and Carr is a professional, and he's going to run the system, etc. The Saints begin with the Tennessee Titans, who are in rebuilding mode, I guess. Then the Panthers with the rookie quarterback. Then the Green Bay Packers, kind of a mystery box with Jordan Love. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a mess. The Patriots.
That's potentially 5 non-playoff teams.
And the Texans.
6.
So 6 non-playoff teams, 2 rookie quarterbacks, maybe 3 if Levis wins the job in Tennessee.
I like it.
And your non-rookie quarterbacks are Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield probably, and Mac Jones. That's 5-1.
And you got Derek Carr. You got the veteran quarterback. And they got a veteran team. There's some veteran players here.
You go down to the defense, and again, some of these guys are veterans to a fault. They're old, but they're still playing at a high level. Cam Jordan's still playing at a very high level. They just extended his contract until 2077 or whatever. Demario Davis very solid at linebacker. Marshawn Lattimore is a very good cornerback. Honey Badger can still play. Alontae Taylor was playing very well last year. The second tier of the talent isn't that great, but there's a lot of experienced heads in there. That's a team against a rookie quarterback should be able to get their turnovers, get their sacks, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get the ball to Carr. Carr's going to have maybe, let's say Thomas is hurt. That would be a problem. He's got Olave to throw to. He's got Kamara back. They've got some guys at tight end. I'm not going to talk about Jimmy Graham. That's weird.
Yeah, that is. I saw that. And I was like, oh.
But they had some of the guys go up real quick at receiver because some of the guys that stepped up last year, you talked about their offense, and their offense had problems.
Oh, Shaheed. He had the really nice season.
Shaheed had a nice season. So he's a deep threat like Olave, not as good, but like a deep threat. Juwan Johnson, very strong player at tight end. He's like a hybrid tight end. Foster Moreau can block. Obviously, is a feel-good story as well, but the kid can play. There's enough here that this is like a team that I would normally say, that's an 8 and 9 team.
I hear you. Schedule. I like it. No, especially because I was actually thinking I was going to take the Saints to win the division, but that could still mean 8 wins, 9 wins.
Yes.
But when you have a third schedule like that, that is usually the difference maker in this win total business that you always have to keep an eye on, which again makes sense then why they are at a high number at 9.5, because Vegas sees the schedule and they say, well, wait a second. But yeah, it's not then hard to believe that they could get 10 wins out of that with that schedule. 10 and 7. I mean, yeah, why not in that division? Okay. And then you take a look at the rookies that should help them. I mean, Kendre Miller, he's somebody that could be their number 1 running back by next year. So that was a nice pick. And on a defense, you got Brzee and Foskey up front.
And they needed youth. They needed youth in that front 7, and that's good, sturdy youth.
Yep. Now, the one kid that did not break out yet, who has to, is Trevor Petty.
Yes.
So he could really solidify that offensive line.
He was. I checked on the Saints news. He was on the Saints news tracker today too. Guess why?
Oh no! What?
He got into a fight in practice.
Oh, okay. That's all right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Just like he did every day last year until he got hurt. Yeah. So
he's ready.
He stays healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Next up, we're going to stay in the NFC, and now we're going a little bit higher with the numbers. Yeah. This is 10.5 for the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm going to say that partly, again, schedule might have to play here because nobody knows what Arizona is going to do until Murray's back. And then you have, of course, the Rams. Also, nobody knows what the heck's going on with that roster. So it could be there where you've got 4 winnable, easy games possible for San Francisco right off the bat. But this is just a very good franchise. There's just no question about it. And they get Brock Purdy back. He'll be there ready first. It's amazing that we're saying that. But this, again, I think it's great for the NFL. The more talented quarterbacks you can get, even from the 7th round, the better. I was a big fan of his at Iowa State. But you see guys like Brock Purdy all the time in college, and you love them, and they're great. But you're like, okay, well, that's it. They're not going to really be an NFL. And then it's like, wait a second. Okay, we've got something here. So I think that's really great, and I don't think he's going away. I don't think it's one of these little trick kind of, it was a rookie, and we're going to catch up to him. They've had the off season. I think he's the real deal. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but I think he's the real deal, and he's exactly what San Francisco needs because they're a very, very well coached team. They've got a good defense and a really good running game and an overall very well coached offense.
That's it. And like I was looking not like partially at the win total and also things like plus 400 to make the Super Bowl for this team. And I might be a little more skeptical of Purdy than you, but let me ask you this. Is there any team in the NFL that could lose their top 2 quarterbacks and still be considered a Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, sure.
You could put Sam Darnold in there say this team will probably go 11-6 or whatever. They could get to the number 11.5 with Sam Darnold. There's not another team in the universe that can do that, but it speaks to what you were talking about, the defense, the coaching, the system, the playmakers, etc. So it could be Purdy. It could see some combination of the 4 people we see there. Phillip Rivers coming out of retirement. That's something Kyle Shanahan talked about. And you could still have this team that's going to be approaching the number.
Yeah, the development, hopefully, of Trey Lance is going to be important because I can't imagine right now. I know they have him on the depth chart here at Arledge as the number 2 quarterback. But if the season were to start today, I can't imagine Trey Lance would he really start over Sam Darnold? Maybe he would. I don't know. I guess it's all about him being healthy, that's for sure. But did anybody think that this would be, that this would not be happening? I mean, considering he's a guy that needs to run, he was coming from an FCS school. Sure, you would immediately think that this was possible, that he was going to deal with these sort of things early in his career. Nobody's trying to say that it's over for him. But it was always a kind of a guess. It was a guesswork kind of pick in the beginning, because even when he was playing and doing a good job in the FCS, it wasn't like he was playing on a high-powered passing offense. He was basically running the football in the FCS. So this is all projection, and I still don't have any idea what to make of him.
Really weird messaging that they have him like in the mix with Darnold. Like if you thought you were showcasing this guy for a trade, you'd probably make a message. Oh, he's competing with Purdy, but man, Purdy's got the inside track. But
yeah,
man, oh man,
come on, we know who's starting there. Yeah,
like we could spend the rest of this, and like I got by the way, hard out right at 4. We could go all day with Trey Lance. You talk about it being sort of a projection. It was a very expensive projection by John.
It was.
Yes, yeah, and this was a guy when you talk about playing at North Dakota State. People saw him in 2019. His season was he didn't have a season in 2020. Everything about him remains a mystery box because it's been 4 years now since we've seen him. So I hope we see him on Sunday afternoon against the Raiders.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
In the Garappa Bowl.
Yeah, that would be. I know we're not going to talk about them, but is he even going to start week 1?
Who, Garoppolo?
Yeah. Is he healthy?
He's healthy. He's been in camp. There have been reports of multiple interception games, which is how you know Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, is if you're getting a report from training camp about 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
And I forget who his backup is. It is not Jarrett Stidham. It is somebody. You got the thingy up there.
Oh, really?
My brain is going to melt when I see the name, though. It is not. They have the kid from Purdue, I believe, as
Aiden McConnell.
Aiden McConnell, who
I don't they have it in here. It should be L.A., so they got it wrong here. Let's see. There it is.
There it is. Wait. And the winner is...
Yeah, O'Connell. Oh, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, so the offensive coordinator is the backup. So there you go.
That's right. Yeah, McConnell could be an interesting 3 years down the road guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, that's... I don't... Yeah, Brian Hoyer starting games would not be a good thing.
O'Connell is one of those guys like Purdy. You see him in college, like, yeah, I like this kid, et cetera, and you don't think,
yeah,
like, and that's the end, and now, but he will have a chance, I think, at some point.
But he was drafted in the 4th round because why? His arm strength was it was better than Purdy's. But yeah, that's nice the thing. You get these winning quarterbacks in college, and like I said, like Purdy, but also let's remember he was coached by Matt Campbell. And Matt Campbell, the NFL respects him. So, that was definitely something that helped Purdy out, no question. All right, next up, we're going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers number is 8.5. So we're back to that winning football kind of number. Do you believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are a winning football team or not? And you believe they are. You would go over the number. This is a very tough division because there's no bad teams. I don't think, Cincinnati may be the one elite team. Because I don't know about Baltimore. I guess they could be because you never count Harbaugh out, or even Jackson if he's healthy all season, which is still, who knows. But it's a tough division.
It's a tough division. By the way, the Ravens' number is very high. I was thinking of putting them on there. The Browns, and the thing I think the Ravens and Browns is like these sort of wild cards, not wild cards as in you're going to come in second place, but like unpredictable, volatile elements here where you could tell me, yeah, it's going to be 12-5. You could tell me it's going to be 5-12. It's like, I can guess what happened based on both of those things. Whereas the Steelers, you look at them, it's like, yeah, that's probably going to be 9-8, 10-7, somewhere in that range. We know Mike Tomlin does what he does in close, low-scoring games. You come in against them unprepared, you're going to lose. You look at the overall talent on defense; it's very strong. Offensive line has been quietly retooled over the last year or two.
The Broderick Jones pick, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the secret weapon there with that. And I don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be, but I get this feeling, and it's going to come up, I think, with our next team as well. If the quarterback is slightly above average. If the quarterback comes in as that
Yes.
game manager, youngster thing, this team is going to be able to win a lot of games.
Yes. Yeah, because the offensive line also, they went out and they got Ciamalo from Philadelphia, which was a very smart move. And they also added a couple other guys. I mean, so overall, they're definitely better on the offensive line. And on defense, the Benton move, that's going to be a kid to keep an eye on without question, because Cam Hayward just continues to play phenomenal football at this stage of his career, but it just can't keep going on. TJ Watt, obviously, it's about keeping him healthy because he has to play almost a full season. He usually does. He had some, issues last year. I hope that's not, a sign of the times. He's getting older, but he's such a difference maker. He's such an amazing player, and he dictates an awful lot when he's on the field.
He's there. Highsmith was extended. The young man Herbig, I think he's banged up right now, but there are a lot of high marks coming out of camp, and he's the perfect. The thing about the Steelers is they got the exact prototype of the outside linebacker. And okay, maybe TJ Watt breaks that a little bit because he's bigger and a little bit different, but most of the time it's this screaming off the edge type of guy, and he doesn't have to be super versatile. Just be
go get him,
go get him. And I think Herbig is somebody that kind of fits that mold and is going to fit right in there. Joey Porter Jr. sitting there. Yeah. I don't think Patrick Peterson has a whole lot left of the tank at this point because, again, if the Vikings get rid of you, you're probably done. But Porter's somebody who's going to step up. All the talk out of camp was Porter versus George Pickens.
That's
the
nice.
one-on-one.
Nice. Yeah.
Pickens won most of them, but Pickens was also shoving Porter aside with one hand. When the referees come in, they might have had a different take on that.
Yeah.
And that's red meat for the fans in Latrobe because you've got a Penn State guy whose dad they all remember at quarterback, and you've got the star of last year's rookie class on the other side. But that's going to be a good opportunity for Porter to grow into his game. He's very physical. And, of course, Pickens is Pickens, and I think we have high expectations for him.
Yeah, and then Minkah Fitzpatrick is also a big difference. That's the thing. You take a look at defensively, and you can go Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those are four difference makers on defense. Not many teams in the NFL can throw that at you. And then you throw in a few other talented players, and that just shows you. And the other thing, too, is that Tomlin – now, what did Pittsburgh have? They have 8 wins last year? Were they have sub 500?
8 or 9. They cracked 500, right? Because, they always do.
Yeah, that's what my point is, that Tomlin is never under 500, unless it would happen last year. And if he is, it's by one game. So, yeah, taking Pittsburgh to be over makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that factor that he brings to the table, part of it is that the schemes don't change much, which means the demands on the players don't change much. So they get guys in the draft. By the way, 9 and 8 last year. They get guys in the draft they know
with a rookie quarterback.
They know they can use them because they know what the scheme is.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then this kid Darnell Washington is a beast, and Pat Freiermuth is going to be an excellent tight end in this league. So.
I heard rumors, and I have to go chase them down, of them trying to run some 22 packages, 2 running back, 2 tight end packages, and maybe using Freiermuth in the slot, and using this kid Washington, who's 8'4".
Yeah, it's basically another tackle. Yeah,
and it's gonna and then 2 backs. It could be a really wild setup.
Yeah, because Jaylen Warren is also someone to keep an eye on, and again, undrafted player who actually is somebody that is going to be a big part of New England's Pittsburgh's offense. I mentioned New England because they're up next, the New England Patriots, and they are in the toughest division potentially in the NFL. And this is year 2 for Mac Jones. Now, when he got off to such a good start, I remember talking about it and saying, well, yeah, of course when you compare him to the other quarterbacks that he was going up against that draft class, of course, he should get off to the best start. He was a veteran quarterback in college. He was well coached. He's a smart kid. But he's also a guy that doesn't have the ceiling that maybe some of those other guys had. But he's kind of, what happened last year should not be put on his plate at all, because that was one of the worst coaching jobs Bill Belichick has ever done, that I've ever seen him do, was put that offense in that spot. And now he's corrected it big time by bringing O'Brien back. I thought it was a very smart move. Not a good head coach, but, a good coordinator. So this is going to be a much better quarterback and a much better quarterback means a much better offense, and we know how good their defense is going to be. So yeah, I can see. I would be surprised if they only had 6 wins. I don't care how tough that division is. I mean, Bill Belichick coach team that has decent enough talent with 6 wins. I don't see it.
That number is really low. And again, I'm a little bit more of a Mac Jones skeptic because bad coaching can ruin a young quarterback.
Well,
and that was tremendous coaching. And we're not talking about somebody, like you said, at the Mahomes level. It's like, you can't ruin me or whatever. Like, and I'm also concerned about how I consider that a kind of a slow group of receivers right now. You know, unless Thornton really takes a step forward.
Yeah, little guy, but yeah.
Right. There are a lot of like grinder type receivers there. But here's the thing, that number is so low. And I was just looking at it, plus 250 to make the playoffs. Plus 250 to make the playoffs. Okay. So, and these are the Patriots. You look at that defense, like look at the scenarios of, say, the Dolphins go belly up because of injuries, something that could very well happen. You don't think the Patriots are a team that can get in there and manufacture 9 and 10 wins?
Yes.
Things get a little goofy with the Jets.
Yes.
Right. Or all 4 teams of the East could potentially make the playoffs. You can see a way that happens. There's a lot of scenarios where that happens. Again, it assumes Bill O'Brien does upgrade the offense, which I think will happen. You can see the offensive line remains strong. They're too well coached to put them way down where they were on the win totals. Bottom line.
Yeah. And the problem with those receivers is that they have done such a poor job for 20 years now with Belichick there of finding receivers in the draft.
Yep.
And now, because of that, they've had to bring in the Devonta Parkers and the Juju Smiths and the Kendrick Bournes, and Myers is now gone. And so, and that's just like guys that are just guys. I mean, maybe Juju Smith's got a second career because last year was a nice year. He's still young. He's not an old guy. So maybe he could still be the number 1 target. They're taking a chance on this Booty kid from LSU who could have been a 1st or 2nd round draft pick a couple of years ago, and nobody knows what in the world happened to him last year because he was just his mind. I know he had a kid, I believe, but LSU had such a good year, and he was not a big part of that. And I don't know what happened to him, but he's a hell of a talented kid, and they need it. But that's been the problem because Hunter Henry has looked really good in camp, from what I hear. And they're going to need a lot of production there. But Ramondre Stevenson, that's the guy that they also have got to rely on and to take another step up because he really was, I think, a lot more productive than people thought he was going to be last year.
He was, and he's a good power back. Not a lot behind him. Ty Montgomery's hurt. Pierre Strong didn't look that great last night. You see Mike Gesicki back there. The first time he misses a block, that's going to be the end of it. O'Brien and Belichick are not going to put up with that. So, but I'm getting close to a hard out here. So I think.
Okay, and then let's go ahead and wrap up with your top team, the Jacksonville Jags, and why do you like them overall as a 10-win team at 9.5?
Everybody likes them. We all like them to win a division.
Yes.
I could see 13, 14 wins based on how bad the rest of the division is going to be. Their schedule is still not particularly difficult because they could sweep that division very easily. So when we're talking in terms of win totals, you get that. And I'm not going to say anything that new about it. Trevor Lawrence takes another step up. Calvin Ridley brings a boost. This was a team that had led the league in drop passes last year. And a lot of that was Zay Jones, who's still there, but Zay Jones is going to be de-emphasized in this offense. It's going to be more Ridley doing that kind of thing. So you look at it on that side. I think their defense was weak last year, but, I say the same thing about their defense. It's full of guys we all loved in the draft. We all kind of, we either loved or we're fascinated by Trayvon Walker. A lot of us loved Lloyd in the draft. A lot of us Muma in the draft. A lot of us Cisco in the draft over the years, even going back to Josh Allen. A lot of guys there where if there's a general groundswell of growth.
Yes.
A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. It can catch fire. And suddenly it's a top 12 defense, top 10, number 10 defense in the league with one of the best offenses. And this team is suddenly in that echelon with the Bengals, Bills, Chiefs.
Well, that's the trick too and the thing that helps them the most is that division. So with Tennessee coming back down, we know, of course, what else is going on there with the Colts and Houston. So, I like that one too. And it's your top one. Makes a lot of sense. To expect them to not win 10 games, I think, would be a big surprise.
Right. I would not try to take that number down or go under in any way, certainly.
Yeah, that would be a big disaster if Jacksonville had a 9-win season. So I would think Lawrence would probably have to get hurt, to tell you the truth, for them to be a 9-win team.
That's kind of it. And you can adjust. You're doing DraftKings. You can take the win total up to 11.5, 12.5, and look at what kind of odds you get.
Sure, I'd take it.
Yeah, feeling it. Get some more juice. I'm not going to do it right now, but like you can get like a plus 250, plus 300 on these numbers. And then if you're feeling it, it can be a fun thing to do during the season.
Mike, very nice talking to you for the first time. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to talk to you again because I know we're doing some preview season shows and things of that nature with some of our other guys. Maybe we'll get you in with some of our other talent, but I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon, and best of luck with themessenger.com.
Thanks a lot. This is a lot of fun. Take care and enjoy it. We got a lot of preseason games coming up here, so take care and enjoy it all.